So the Odell Beckham Jr. era in Baltimore is officially over. Plus, general manager Eric DeCosta peels back the curtain and kind of talks about some of the thoughts that went in to the 2024 rookie draft class that we're really excited about. Plus, offensive coordinator Todd Monken reveals that John Harbaugh directly approached him about something in the middle of the season that needed to be fixed, and much more Baltimore Ravens news. So welcome in to another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. At number 1, let's dive right in. Now let's start with what John Harbaugh talked to Todd Monken about regarding Lamar Jackson and the offense. So it was just revealed in this interview that was conducted a few months ago, but it was just now released. Todd Monken said that John Harbaugh came up to him right after the Titans game that was played in London. And John Harbaugh told Todd Monken straight up, we're using Lamar Jackson way too much and relying on him too much. We need to be more creative in the red zone. Now, in that game, I went back and looked at the stat sheet. Lamar Jackson had the second highest amount of rushing attempts all season. He had 13 rushing attempts in that game for 62 rushing yards and was relying on Lamar Jackson in the red zone to try to score some touchdowns. That was the game where we were moving the ball pretty well, but it was stalling out in the red zone, and they were asking Lamar Jackson to do way too much. That's where a guy like Derrick Henry gets you really excited, that can take some of the load off of Lamar Jackson and shoulder some of that weight and take some meaningful snaps in the red zone where Derrick Henry has quite some experience. Todd Monken went on to say that, they had to get a little bit less aggressive whenever they were in the, kind of deep part of the red zone where you're 15 to 20, 25 yards away from the end zone. They were a lot of times trying to go for the jugular and take a strike at the end zone from that distance. And he said sometimes we had to back off and be okay with the check down, with the 5-7 yard pickup to put us in some short and manageable situations. I'm really excited to see the run-pass ratio, how the offense looks with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, and of course the rookie running back Rasheen Ali getting some carries. Let me know in the comments section below, how many carries do you want to see Lamar Jackson get per game to keep defenses honest? It was really cool, really humble to hear Todd Monken reveal that, hey, our head coach told us we were jacked up and we tried to fix it. And he said from there on, they were a top 5 red zone offense. Really impressive stuff. Love the humility there from offensive coordinator Todd Monken, and also excited to see what it looks like in year 2 now that he has a better feel for some of the players, his quarterback, the receivers. Really excited to see how this offense looks. I truly think it's going to be a top 5 offense. At number 2, Eric DeCosta, he pulls back the curtain and reveals some of these draft picks, the thoughts that went into it. First, let's talk about TJ Tampa. He said they considered drafting this cornerback, TJ Tampa, in the 3rd round. Now, on some big boards like Dan Brugler's, he was in the top 50. I think he was like the 44th overall prospect. A lot of guys, draft analysts, had him mocked in the 2nd to 3rd round range. I even saw some mocks at some point before he had the slower 40 where he was in the back end of the 1st round. TJ Tampa, really good physical press corner with super freakishly long arms to really disrupt routes, patterns, to get his hands on footballs. And he's really physical, like we said, at the stem of the route and in press coverage right off the snap. Love the value they got. He reveals that they considered taking him in the 3rd round, and whenever he was still there in the 4th round, he was too good to pass up. Talked about how the 40 time, they know he's faster. They use some advanced analytics to look at the game speed on film. Whenever you're actually in pads playing football, as opposed to what you run in, a tank top and shorts without any pads on. It's a lot different game speed versus your track speed. And TJ Tampa, that's the reason why he fell. He also said that he loves the super long arms and the press ability. So it was cool to hear about the thoughts on TJ Tampa. Also, Adisa Isaac, the 3rd round draft pick edge player out of Penn State, says that he's a relentless football player. Love that he dealt with adversity. He said a lot of times you get in the NFL, you're no longer the best player on your team anymore. You got to deal with injuries. You got to deal with working your way up the roster on the depth chart. And he says he's the type of guy we seek when we build our football team. Relentless football player in the motor there. Cool to hear that. Devontae Walker, this was really interesting to hear. He said having a guy like Torrey Smith was to us, a player that can just run past people, force teams to play too deep, in that split field safety look. And Zay and Bate can get deep, but they're more uncover full route tree guys, he says. So he loves that Devontae Walker is that outside X that can stretch the field vertically with the big 6'2 frame, the 4'3 speed, saying they want to have a guy like Torrey Smith was back in the day. That's exciting to hear. If Devontae Walker becomes anything like Torrey Smith was in the impact that he had on the game, that's an impact player. That's exciting. Love that Devontae Walker was there in the 4th round as that. I actually, if you guys go back and look, my first Baltimore Ravens mock draft, I had Devontae Walker going to the Ravens in the 2nd round. And I still believe I would have been happy if we took him in the 2nd round. That's how highly I thought of him being the difference maker in the perfect, hand in glove fit in this offense where you wanted a guy with a little bit more length, height, and just vertical speed to stretch the field to have that impact that Hollywood Brown had on the offense a few years ago whenever he was in here in Baltimore. At number 3, Odell Beckham Jr., man, he's officially a Miami Dolphin. He signs an $8.25 million deal, I think it was. He's no longer a Baltimore Raven. The OBJ era is over. It's still crazy to think about that time period. And I remember getting the news, the notification across my phone that Baltimore signed Odell Beckham Jr. and how fired up I was. And remember, that was in the midst of the Lamar Jackson contract situation where we did not know Lamar's future. And Odell Beckham Jr. helped secure Lamar Jackson here in Baltimore because Lamar said he wanted Odell. And I'll never forget some of the catches he made that won against Miami. Man, I was there in the stadium during that game, and the insane body control on this beautiful, beautiful throwing catch from Lamar and Odell Beckham Jr. Some of those 3rd down plays, the slant that he caught against the Browns to take it to the house. Odell Beckham Jr., I wish him success on the Dolphins. Maybe they go win the AFC East and dethrone the Buffalo Bills, but I do not wish them any success whenever we could see them in the playoffs. So Odell Beckham Jr., he was great to gel the locker room, the veteran presence, and then, he got to mold and groom and kind of mentor some of the players like Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, which bodes well for our wide receiver room moving forward. And then you still got some veteran presence there with Nelson Aguilar and Deontay Hardy, as well as some young, fresh talent with, Bate, Zay, and Devontae Walker, Talon Wallace. I'm really excited about this wide receiver room. I think they complement each other really well, and they're going to make a big-time difference for this passing game. What's also exciting about this is Odell Beckham Jr., 64 targets last year. I think he had 35 catches on 64 targets, but that's 64 targets. That's going to another mouth to feed, right? Odell Beckham Jr. leaves a 64 target void in the offense. I see that, some more targets going to Bate. Zay got a ton of targets last year, so maybe that stays similar. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, Nelson Aguilar, Devontae Walker, they're all going to be splitting some of these snaps, these targets that Odell Beckham Jr. was getting this last year. And let me know in the comment section below who should take the majority of these snaps from Odell Beckham Jr. At number 4, Eric DeCosta addresses the offensive line, and he's excited about some of these players. If there was one message that was sent, maybe indirectly, not directly stated during the draft, right? Sometimes actions speak louder than words, was the lack of interior offensive line taken in the early rounds of the draft. That tells you that they have faith and confidence in the guys on the roster. And Eric DeCosta talked about Andrew Voorhees, said he looks fantastic, big and strong. He said he's one of the strongest players on the team. That's really high praise for a second-year player. John Harbaugh also said yesterday he looked super strong, well-trained, excited to see what Andrew does. I think he's going to take a starting guard spot. Eric DeCosta also talked about Saleh the 6th-round pick from last year, who was getting some early run at the left guard, spot during that competition before ultimately John Simpson took that spot later in camp. Saleh was challenged by the Ravens during this offseason to add some strength and to get stronger during the offseason, and he says he's looking good in that department so far. So they're excited about Saleh, Andrew Voorhees, and he also mentioned signing Josh Jones, the veteran, who played for Arizona and the Houston Texans. This is a football player who's played left guard, started at left guard and right guard, also played some tackle positions, and this is a guy that's going to be competing. It could be something similar to what we saw with John Simpson, right? John Simpson, we did not expect to come in and be a plug-and-play starter that started all the games for the Ravens last year, except for, I think, one. And then he ended up signing a nice contract in free agency with the New York Jets. So between Andrew Voorhees, Saleh, and then Josh Jones, and then Ben Cleveland, that left and right guard spot, tons of competition in there, as well as the rookie center who can play guard. Andrew Voorhees, the rookie, Saleh, Josh Jones, and Ben Cleveland, 5 players right there competing for 2 guard spots. May the best man win, and I think the Ravens are going to have a very sturdy offensive line with some depth moving into the season. At number 5, we know Odafe Owe's 5th-year option was picked up, and Eric DeCosta was asked about that. He says he plays a very important position, a premium position, and analytically, he's been productive and disruptive. We talked about the pass rush win rate. We showed the graphic the other day. He said he's a tenacious guy, and he truly believes the best is yet to come. And that number next year is going to be worth it because he expects Odafe Owe to put up some big-time production this year. And then that $13 million cap hit for the 5th-year option is going to look like a bargain, look like a steal compared to the production that he just had in this upcoming year. I think Odafe Owe, he was top 15 in win rate this last year. I think he was 11th overall. And we're going to see some of those sacks start to rack up. Hopefully he can stay healthy because I think he's going to have a big role in his defense, trying to return to be one of the top defenses in the NFL, just as the Ravens were last year. Between Justin Madubuike, Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Owe, and then some of the young guys like Tavius Robinson, Adisa Isaac, Malik Ham, I do think the Ravens pass rush is going to get after it this year, especially with some of the coaching staff returning like Chuck Smith, the outside linebacker pass rush coach. Really excited for this team in 2024. I think they can compete for a championship. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below, man. If you got any value out of today's content, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. I love you guys and appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Ray, when he wasn't looking, he ran me over.